to Industry Insights Webinars Interviews. I'm Tiffani Neilson, and with me today is Nathalie Grolimund, and she is the founder of Rethink Travel. How are you today, Nathalie?
Hi, Tiffani. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me.
Sure.
And she has a long background in sustainability and hospitality, which is perfect for our Future of Smart Travel webinar that we have coming up. So with that in mind, can you tell us a little bit about your hospitality background?
Yeah, so I mean, to make it quite short, I've been in the travel industry for about 18 years. I've been working with hotels for a very long time, whether it was, so I started as a travel editor. So my job was to review hotels around the world, to publish them in coffee table books and then in magazines. So, you know, when you review so many hotels, at some point, something else needs to stand out than just like a great hotel, you know? So, so this is also how I got into sustainability a little bit, you know, getting a bit deeper into what's interesting to me in the travel industry.
And how do you become an advocate in sustainability in this industry?
So, it really started as a personal battle. I moved back to Berlin in Germany 7 years ago. And I don't know if you've been to Berlin, but Berlin is a very green city. And everyone here is extremely conscious about the environment. And there's like so many zero waste stores and like half the restaurants are vegan. So there's like this thing. And you know, you get it, like I got into it a little bit to just try and understand, you know, why all these things are happening here. And I decided to educate myself a lot more on what the issues are and how we can solve them. But the problem is, you know, with sustainability, every time you have a conversation, it opens another 10 doors of information and things to know. So yeah, it really started as a personal thing. And then gradually I implemented it into work because, you know, I was working with all these hotels and again, I started, you know, being very interested in what was going on behind the scenes, because up until a couple of years ago, it was not necessarily something hotels would talk about.
And you mentioned that sustainability can mean many things. So can you tell us, is there a rating system or some kind of tool of measurement that you use to tally what's sustainable and what's not?
So especially now, sustainability is used everywhere. So and you know, so it does mean a lot of different things, and it does also mean a lot of different things depending in which country you're in, because, you know, sustainability is not like people are not facing the same issues in the US, in Europe, or, you know, in Southeast Asia. So the most known, I would say, measurement tool, I would say, for hotels is the GSTC. So GSTC is the Global Sustainability Tourism Council. So they have laid out like an entire program of criteria and things that hotels need to go through to be called sustainable. The criteria I decided to go with are based on not only the GSTC, but also the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which are known by the SDGs, which are 10 goals that we're supposed to kind of solve until 2030. And so I've defined 10 criteria based on these two tools. But if you look into the travel industry, there's like hundreds of different certifications and labels. So it's really hard to navigate if you're, you know, a traveler even. They wouldn't even know where to start looking, you know. So this is actually also why I created this platform that kind of started as a booking platform, which I completely pivoted last year to do an education platform for people to really understand what sustainable travel means. I felt this was more important than booking.
And can you maybe give us an example of maybe what's sustainable and what's not? I mean, is it not having disposable straws? Is it using less water? What are some examples of how hoteliers are using sustainability?
So, you know, I think 10 years ago there was these conversations about not having plastic straws or plastic bottles. To me now, this is definitely something I don't even want to talk about. I mean, honestly, if I get to a hotel and they greet me with a plastic bottle, like I'm not even going to look further. So this to me now should be the base to not have these single-use plastics. But really, more than that, you know, there's all these systems of, I like hotels that harvest rainwater or have an entire water management system for, you know, for flushing, you know, toilets flushing, or for cleaning, or for watering the plants. You know, there are so many things we can do with desalination also when you're close to the ocean, or harvesting these like rainwater. These are amazing technologies out there, and this is really one example, because I think to me it is a very important topic, because water scarcity is something that we're going to face in a couple of years, but because it's not an immediate issue, people don't really see it, you know, because right now they're like, well, we don't have a water problem, but I mean, it's coming. So this is one thing. One criteria that's to me also very important is how they take care of the local communities. So, you know, we're trying to stay in a very short circuit economy. So the more things the hotel can get from around the property, the better. And, you know, if they can have an education program for the local communities to thrive also on you know, what the hotel I mean, on the hotel's business kind of. So these are the things we're looking at. Obviously, waste is also something very important. It's very important for us that the hotels don't have these like small plastic amenities in the bathroom. It's you know, there's like, I mean, cultural heritage is another example, you know, to kind of also educate guests that it's not okay to engrave your initials on corals or these kind of things, you know. All these things that do not destroy the environment, I think is really the key word. And we're just trying to find the right balance with nature, the wildlife, and people. And the main goal of sustainability is to not harm, which, you know, now there's another movement that came into sustainability, which is regeneration. That's next level, you know. So sustainability is to not harm and to keep a balance, but regeneration is to improve work conditions, is to you know, rewild, is to regenerate soils. So all these kind of things that not only make it okay to use, but really improve the environment and people's lives.
And so it sounds like you don't have to build a sustainable hotel from scratch, but maybe you could just put in some sustainable best practices into an existing resort or hotel of some sort. Is that correct?
Yes, definitely. And it is actually the highest demand right now for consulting, because you know, it's one thing to build a hotel from scratch, but there are hundreds of thousands of hotels around the world right now who see this wave of sustainability coming, and they're like, so what can I do except, you know, other than replacing my plastic straws? So, you know, we have an entire program that help these hotels, especially in urban areas, because it's a lot easier for a hotel, you know, by the ocean in Costa Rica to implement sustainable practices. But if you're in the middle of Paris or London, it's very hard for them to, you know, obviously they're not in nature, so there are many different things they need to do. So, you know, there are filters they can put on windows, so it reflects heat, so they don't have to you know, use AC this much. You know, they can dedicate like an entire room to vertical farming, because, you know, obviously they don't have an entire land to grow at least herbs and vegetables and fruits. So they could also use these like technologies of vertical farming, which is also such a I mean, booming industry right now. There's many things they can do, and also something they need to understand is that we don't need all hotels to have all foods all year long, every day. So, you know, what I'm also trying to have a conversation with these hotels is really also to say, you know, be a climatarian. So you don't need to have avocados all year long if you're in, or if you're in, you know, in a city that ships avocado from across the world. You don't, you know, if you're in Southeast Asia and you have a great desalination and water treatment system for drinking water and then sparkling water, you do not have to ship, you know, labeled water across the world. So these things are also now starting to be common sense for hoteliers to not just like ship things across the world that they don't really need.
Well, living in Las Vegas and looking at the number of buffets that have pretty much everything on the menu, I definitely could see where that could be a challenging aspect of sustainability. But what's the big picture here? If we don't take on some of these sustainable best practices, what do you see for the future? What happens if we do, and what happens if we don't, in your opinion?
You know, there is such a big debate on the industries that are damaging this planet, the reasons why it's damaging, and then there's lots of talks about, you know, if it's man-made or not man-made, and you know, if we can really do something about it. And I'm like, okay, let's, you know, put aside climate change, because this is a big topic, and you know, although I do believe that we're not helping climate change, you know, because right now there are so many talks about, you know, is it man-made or not? I'm like, well, this is not the topic. Water is rising and we have climate change issues. So to me, it doesn't really matter whose fault it is, kind of. But we, you know, we are facing things. But let's say, okay, let's say we put this aside. We have a huge waste problem. The waste we have on this planet, we don't even have anywhere to put our waste anymore. You know, Asian countries like China and Taiwan and different Philippines used to take the Western waste in to fuel their factories and to recycle. They don't take it anymore because there's too much waste. So we have a plastic problem and we have a waste problem, and you know, this is in the food industry, this is in the fashion industry, in the construction industry. So where we're going, if we're not doing anything about it, is in a planet that's not like livable. You know, I mean, I think this is really our oceans are getting completely trashed because there are I mean, the amount of waste that go into the oceans is really scary. You know, and I mean, I don't know if you know these facts, but our ocean is actually a great source of oxygen for us. If the ocean die, we die, kind of, you know. I mean, if you look at the really, really larger picture. So this is why it's really important for me. I mean, it's such an important topic to implement things so later generations can understand what the issues are. You know, there are many countries right now around the world, especially thinking about places like the Maldives, that will go underwater if the oceans keep rising, because their highest point is basically my height. So, you know, now they're trying to do artificial islands, floating islands, because they're thinking maybe in 30, 40 years there will be no more islands. So
I think really it's about raising awareness, because what you're saying, even with the water scarcity, how bad is the water scarcity crisis? I mean, people really aren't talking about it to the degree it sounds like they should be. Can you tell us more about how you're saying the oceans are bad? How bad is the water scarcity?
I will give you one example. You know, I'm going to come back to my avocado example because I love avocado. I just made a point to not consume them in Europe. So I was in Mexico all winter, and so I had so much avocado I cannot even tell you. So I will give you this example. For example, in Chile and Peru, which are the two countries where they grow the most avocados, right? So 95%, I think, it's a crazy number, 95% of their production is for the global north. So the global north, right, being United States, Canada, Europe, and north of Asia. So the governments are helping the avocado industry. But to do that, because right now they don't have enough water in these countries. So they're taking water, like the entire water available, they're taking it from farmers who are, dying of hunger because they need to water the avocado production for the global north, because this is what the government, this is a big part of their economy, and they thrive on that. So, my conscious decision of not participating in this industry is because, and me raising awareness around this is really for people to understand that, we're in a world where the global north is getting fatter, and the global south is dying from hunger. There is a complete imbalance, and this is unsustainable. So, I think that if we just rethink, our entire consumption chain, we will have a much better, balance with the entire world. Also, the reason why I decided to go into the travel industry is because everyone loves to travel. We all want to go places. And I also want people to understand that it's still okay to go places. We're not here to point fingers at people to say, do not travel ever again. But also my point, if we do not do anything to change, there will be no places to travel to anymore. We're destroying the environment right now in many, many different places.
And I know this interview is probably a little longer than we intended, but can you give us some examples of maybe some of the things in travel that are causing the most harm to the environment?
Well, it is mass tourism. Right now, we are in a situation where 90% of people go to 5% of the planet. So there's an unequal distribution of where people go. I partly blame it on Instagram or social media, because there are these this bucket list of 50 places around the world where everyone feel like they need to go. My job, my journey with Rethink Travel is also, to show people that there are so many amazing places around the world that you can go to, and you'll be by yourself if you go there. So,
and if you bring something, take it back with you. Don't leave things there. And then
exactly. And there's a way to travel better. Again, I'm not against people getting on flights and to go places. I do too. I'm just saying there's like things to think of. If you have a direct flight, try to take a direct flight and not have a layover. So you, instead of having 4 flights, you'll have 2. If you go to a huge resort, try to pick one that don't have these like hundreds of buffet every day, that do not provide plastic bottles, or that when you go somewhere, maybe take one day to do like a local activity, whether it's like beach cleaning or understanding wildlife restoration, or something that you can do that you can just take home and you feel like you've learned a little something from your travel. I think it's totally okay that everyone goes away. I just think there's like very small things to twist so they can become better travelers.
So business plus leisure trips, the leisure trips, is that sustainable? Probably not unless it's done correctly, right?
I think what's not sustainable, one industry I really have a hard time with is the cruise industry. It's to me, I understand that people want to be at sea and everything, but stopping in 3 cities every day, or and going around Europe in 5 days, to me is not something I feel I feel is conscious travel. I think it's nice when you can go somewhere and really understand the culture, and eat local, and meet local people, and participate in also this community and this economy. But we'll get there. I'm very hopeful.
Maybe they'll tie in some new excursions. We'll keep our hopes up. And if they want more information, Nathalie, on sustainability, and I hear that you have a blog that's available with some good resources. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we do have a website called Rethink.Travel, where I have interviews with hoteliers and great projects. We're launching a podcast actually next month, where I'm going to be talking to hoteliers and different people in the industry for people to understand what sustainable travel means. So the online magazine and the podcast is called The Conscious Traveler. And obviously you can find me on Instagram. I still have Instagram. I'm just trying to push the message that we don't need to go to the famous places all the time.
Well, thank you so much, Nathalie. Do you have a final tip for us before we close out the interview?
Yeah, sure. So, there's something that's really close to my heart is for people to understand that, when we talk about sustainability and all these different topics, zero waste, vegetarian, like all these different things that are new, no one is 100% perfect. And I think it's important for people to, especially now we're in a society where we love to point fingers and judge people for everything. It's very important that, to not put too much pressure on ourselves to be perfect all the time. If we all do our best, I think it will just be great, and it will be a great step forward.
Thank you so much, Nathalie, and check out that website, rethink.travel. So check that out. Thank you, Nathalie. You have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.